Hello everyone, I am the Double Agent, and please, look at the title again. Hits. These are the top 10 best hits of 2015. Which means I'm only putting singles on this list, because singles are the songs that the labels actually wanted you to hear, and I'm only including singles that charted anywhere on the Billboard Weekly Hot 100, because those are the songs that people actually listen to. The ones that defined music as a whole this year, for better or worse. Because I'm trying to make a very specific point here, that pop music is not dead. I said it once, I'll say it again. 2015 was a really good year for the charts. Today I aim to prove that. And yes, I know, people will disagree, and I'm ready to scroll through quite a few rambly think pieces in the comment section. But I really feel like the good stuff outweighed the bad stuff this year. 2015 winter and fall particularly were some of the strongest seasons I think we've seen since summer 2012. I was actually way more excited for my best list than it was my worst list this time around, because I feel like a best list is a better way to send this year off. I mean, in 2014, I could barely fill up a top 10 best list by December. In 2015, I filled up the entire list twice over before April. It was a prosperous time. But enough directionless preamble, let's get the show on the road. These are the top 10 best hit songs of 2015. These are Give it to me, I'm worth it. Number 10. Baby, I'm worth it. 2015 at large was a very dark year in music. Most of the massive breakthrough hits that dominated the radio this year were intense and brooding. Even the fun stuff had a dark undertone to it. It was an overarching, captivating sound that, while enjoyable, got a little tiring after a while. So to kick this list off, here's the exact opposite of all that.
My house in Budapest, my hidden treasure chest, golden grand piano.
Given how little this song matches up with 2015 trends, it's kind of weird how much it defines 2015 for me. It's just such a relaxing song, with its soothing melody, whispery tone, immediately memorable chord progression, and George Ezra's majestic vocals.
It may be hard for you to stop and believe, but for you.
His delivery is actually incredibly unclear in places. I've listened to this song so much that I've memorized what the lyrics sound like, but I don't think I know what half of them are.
Baby, if you owe me, then all of this will go away.
But somehow that makes the song work even more, because it keeps the song focused on the tone. This is basically background music, but it's really good background music. It was the background music for an entire semester of my life. I've listened to this song at least 3 times a week for several months straight, and the fact alone that it still hasn't worn off on me in the slightest makes it worthy of my number 10 spot. It's a good song. I highly recommend giving it a re-listen, because, well, if you've had the radio on at all this year, you've probably heard it before. Number 9. To be honest, I'm kinda at a loss for words with this one. I actually don't know why I like this. In many ways, I actually can't stand it. This right here, this is everything I hate about pop music. It's awkward, bumbling, incoherent. I don't feel like this was birthed from a shared vision between DJ Snake and the Major Lazer crew. The lyrics are quantifiably meaningless. There is a stupid amount of reverb on this, topped up with Moe's extra screechy vocals to give it an infinitely repeating pile of noise kind of effect. The beat is a wreck. There's a very clear divide between the parts that DJ Snake worked on and the parts that Major Lazer team worked on. The synth has a swing to it that the percussion just doesn't match. The hi-hat just barely pokes through the atmosphere effects. And the drop itself feels like it should be incredibly awkward. Apparently DJ Snake was actually thrown onto the song halfway through the production process, and yeah, it shows. But it all just kind of works for some reason. Moe's screechy vocals highlight both the deeper tones in DJ Snake's half and the smoother tones in Major Lazer's half, creating a really nice effective contrast. The percussion thankfully fades into the background, becoming a non-problem. And that mess of a drop actually grew on me after a while. And I mean, sure, the lyrics don't really carry a meaning, but they sound good. And I mean, that's all that really matters for songs like these, right? I don't know. Whatever it is about the song that drew me into it, it worked. I listened to this shit non-stop this year. And whatever kind of miraculous, unidentifiable quality that it was that led me to ignore all of my standards, I salute it. You win this round, Lazer. But the war rages on. Number 8. Even for 2015, a year filled with new acts and unexpected comebacks, seeing Nick Jonas break into the music scene out of nowhere as a solo act was quite the spectacle. And the weird part is, he was actually a pretty legit artist for, like, 3 seconds.
You got me in chains. You got me in chains for your love, but I wouldn't change.
Nick Jonas didn't just make a comeback this year. He actually had 3 pretty big hits, so I think it's safe to say he's officially made his way back into the mainstream. And after the massive douchey bombshell that was Jealous, it's nice to see Nick flaunt his more mature side a little bit. And of course, by mature, I don't mean adult or sophisticated, because the song's still about a young love gone wrong. And I don't mean rational either, because he's still playing the victim pretty hard here. So what am I talking about? Well, the tone. It just sounds so much more significant, so much more refined. From the very beginning of the song, those bass hits, that clattering, it's dark, nearly chilling. Nick offers a strong but really well-controlled performance on this song, which, when coupled with a great crescendo and a powerful drop and some really effective tribal vocals, gives off a grand, intimidating sound, matched pretty well by the lyrics. It's amazing how Nick managed to take a shitty relationship, blow it up to the proportions of slavery, play it completely straight, and it didn't even remotely sound tacky.
Baby, tell me why you do me wrong. Gave you my heart, but you took my soul.
Nick finally got a handle on how to write for the effective intensity. Less detail, more exaggeration. If only you figured this out a couple months earlier, maybe Jealous would have been alright.
Give me that now and later.
As far as levels goes, the third and final hit in Nick's comeback trilogy, it was alright, albeit pretty disgusting sounding. It's not the end of his career or anything, but it's definitely a sign that the potential present in Chains was wasted and the integrity fleeting. But hey, it was great while it lasted.
Trying to break the chains, but the chains only bring me.
This is probably the weirdest choice I've ever made on a list like this. And I say that as someone who's put Turn Down for What, Trumpets, and I Don't Fuck With You on last year's list, so make of that what you will. It feels weird to call this a comeback hit, because Macklemore was only really ever gone for like a year and a half. But given how much people seem to forget and regret his existence over said year and a half, it was honestly pretty surprising to see this get so big so quickly. And I gotta say, he has outdone himself with an incredibly fun and weirdly diverse track, reaching as far as Eric Nally for just the right guest performance, and it definitely paid off. Ever heard of Eric Nally? Well, you have now. Lyrically, this song has that Mackly feel to it that you'd come to expect from tracks like Thrift Shop and White Walls. It's a pretty basic premise. Take overused glamour cliches like bragging about having a nice car and toting it around in the hood, and apply them to a non-glamorous scenario, say buying a used moped. And it works. Really, really well actually, leading to quite a few genuinely hilarious moments.
Neighbors yelling at me like you need to slow down. Going 38, Dan, chill the fuck out. Mow your damn lawn and sit the hell down.
Production-wise, I'll be honest, I'm completely lost. This is basically 3 different songs. Macklemore's verses, borrowing heavily from the 80s.
There's layers to the shit, player. Tiramisu.
The chorus, a glam rock interlude that goes nowhere. And whatever this is supposed to be, have no real connection to each other. And there's really no transition between them or any apparent planning really, just kind of switches whenever it feels like it. It's a sloppy mess, but in a really charming way. The song has a certain spontaneity to it, and the rapid changes in tone prevent any element from growing stale. I never thought I'd see the day where I'd compliment randomness as one of the song's best features, but I guess that's Macklemore for you. 2015 had a lot of weird hits. And I don't just mean weird songs, I mean like songs that have no place being hits. Songs that don't match up with any of the year's trends and got big for pretty much no reason. And in many ways, that's actually a good thing. Case in point. In a year absolutely dominated by R&B and ballads, it's nice to hear a song with a genuine rock swing to it on Billboard every now and then. The production is pretty great. It's got a strong punk influence to it and a great retro type melody. My only real problem is that there's not much build up to the chorus, it just kinda starts.
Always wanna come, but they never wanna leave.
Which weakens the hook a bit, but there's definitely enough energy still there to make up for it. Elle's vocals are great on this. They're energetic and full of personality, and she rides the beat really well. And even though the lyrics are very clearly stretching the truth a bit, Elle manages to sell them completely with her powerhouse of a voice. There's so much strength behind all of this, and it's incredibly fun to lip sync to, take my word for it. It's a fun little power fantasy, emphasis on power. I like the kind of role reversal thing the video has going on. Matches up pretty well with the theme of the song. Now, of course, the video has picked up a good deal of controversy. You got people saying that it's objectifying to men, and that if the genders were swapped, there would be an outrage, and you know what? That's actually pretty reasonable.
Production.
In any other year, Fetty Wap would be an artist that I would describe as a guilty pleasure. But not 2015, because if any year needed a Fetty Wap, it was this one.
I'm like, hey, what's up, hello?
I mean, 2015 was a dark, depressing year for R&B and rap particularly, so a dorky, squeaky rapper making genuinely happy songs about relationships that are going really well was a much-needed change of pace. Now, I'm a fan of the guy, but even I'll admit, Fetty Wap's music isn't the smartest, the most well-produced, or even the most competent. It's basically garbage. But it's really fun-looking garbage. The kind of garbage that's just begging you to jump into it and splash around a little. I don't know what to say. The dude just makes it work. Trap Queen, My Way, 679, he has a knack for making light, fun, catchy pop rap. There's something infectious about his style. His ability to come up with really simple, really catchy melodies, his stupid, jovial lyrical style, his bouncy flow, his noises. It's such a strong personality. His strained, whale call of a voice would probably be really annoying on anyone else, but it works really well in tandem with Fetty's youthful vibe. For a while, I honestly couldn't decide which one of the songs to include here. They're all so great in so many different ways. And that's why I decided to list all of them. So yeah, Fetty Wap is great. Shit, I guess I kinda covered everything in the preamble, didn't I? Well, I guess if I've got nothing to say, might as well rank the songs. 679, Trap Queen, My Way again. Alright, moving on.
Show me what you got now. Come on, make it worth my while. Number 4. Show me I'm worth it.
It should probably be given that any song I mentioned in the Outliers should automatically be disqualified from this list. Of course, no one even watches that series, so it doesn't even matter, but still. Obviously, I'd grant an exception to any song that just so happens to crack the top 40 after I mention it, a la Roses, but for the song in question, that's actually not the case. I'm not putting the song on here because it was a hit, I'm putting the song on here because it should have been one.
Bills, I gotta pay, so I'm gonna work every day.
Seriously, why the fuck wasn't this huge? It's not even just that it's so great, but that it had so much potential. It sounds like a hit. It's got so much mass appeal with actual quality to back it. Why didn't this catch on? The production is miraculous. The song is filled with so many great loops, a wide variety of sounds without ever once feeling cluttered. You got so much going on. Multiple piano riffs, some atmospheric effects, at least 3 different drums, a bunch of synths, some bass, a siren, and some looped vocal effect, and they all fit.
Bills, I gotta pay.
It's so bloated, yet incredibly well controlled. Kinda like Lunch Money Lewis himself. The lyrics are playful, exaggerated, and desperate, which mixes well with the constantly swelling beat. It's actually really weird how I managed to make a song about crippling debt so uplifting.
Hopped in the car won't start. It's too damn hot, but I still gotta walk behind an old lady in the grocery line, praying that my car don't get declined.
Lunch Money Lewis has this undeniable charm to his voice. He's the Josh Peck of pop. Chubby, charismatic, likable, and mostly hilarious.
Goddamn old man.
This song is nearly perfect. It's fun, it's catchy, it's memorable, it's relatable, it's radio friendly, and it's actually got a pretty decent amount of exposure. It really should have charted higher, but I guess it all really comes down to weak sales, unfortunately, as the song didn't even get certified here in the US. It's almost kind of ironic. A song about someone needing money got poor sales. He has bills to pay and the public is not helping. I hope this dude makes it big one day, if not just for the sake of poetic justice. You knew this was coming. After putting this at number 1 on 3 consecutive top 20 rankings, you knew this was coming. In fact, I assume most of you probably expected it to top this list. But I'm not that obvious.
I only called you when it's half-past, but the only time that I be.
The Weeknd has grown on me immensely over the past year. Every misconception I had of the dude, from his awkward Love Me Harder feature and his miserable drudging performance on Earned It, were wiped out completely and totally, and replaced with this horrific insanity. Everything about this, from the eerie synth, to the percussion, to the drowned out scream right before the chorus, to the incredible drop, to the overpowering bass, it's wonderfully disturbing. It's dark and gritty in the best ways possible. Musically, it's horrifying. Lyrically, it's honest. And that is an incredibly effective combination.
Trying to keep it up don't seem so simple. I just fucked 2 bitches before I saw you.
The Weeknd's performance on the song is probably his best performance to date. For one, it actually sounds somewhat controlled. And 2, it works really well with the tone of the song. It's nice to hear The Weeknd really stressing his lower register. He's a bit warbly and off-key at moments, but that only really adds to the unsettling effect. It's a great song, easily the best #1 hit of 2015, and if you somehow haven't heard it yet, check it out. Number 2. I know you've all probably heard enough about how awful my best of 2014 list was from that one collab video I made a month ago, but I can't stress this enough. That list was complete shit. I missed the opportunity to list a Kendrick Lamar song for fuck's sake. And I am not letting that happen again.
Bitch, where you and I was walking. Now I run the game, got the whole world talking. King Kunta, everybody wanna cut the legs off him.
I could have picked either The Black or the Berry or All Right for this list, both of which probably would have been more obvious choices, and both of which probably better represent To Pimp a Butterfly as a whole, but ultimately I ended up going with King Kunta because it peaked the highest, it's the only song of the 3 that actually got certified in the US, and it's the one that I ultimately find myself coming back to. It should be no surprise to anyone by now, but Kendrick is amazing. He has this incredible lyrical dexterity and flow that I haven't heard from any other rapper in probably years. But out of all of his releases from To Pimp a Butterfly, King Kunta is probably the one where he flexes his lyrical skills the least.
I wouldn't tell, but most of y'all share bars like you got the bottom bunk in a 2-man sale.
What makes this song great, in particular, isn't Kendrick's performance, it's the incredible beat. And that's ultimately why I put it on here. I'm not a lyrics guy, I am a music guy. Lyrics are important, yeah, but the beat is usually what ultimately wins me over. And the beat here is actually perfect. The bass riff, the synths, the breathy percussion, the sound effects, they all mix so perfectly. It's so controlled, so airtight. Just the right elements come in at just the right times. It just keeps adding new elements over time, progressively building and building and building to the point where at the end it's a completely different, better song. All the while still keeping the central riff its main focus. And right when it starts to feel the slightest bit cluttered, it collapses completely, deforming into a closing verse that's actually pretty disturbing, matching up well with the cryptic, deeply woven metaphor that the lyrics are based around. It's a really good listen. Please, if you haven't already heard it, check it out, as well as the rest of To Pimp a Butterfly. And now, before we get to #1, an unreasonable amount of honorable mentions to artificially increase suspense. All Day by Kanye West, which would have been on here if not for that part at the end. Only One by Kanye West, which would have been on here if not for the immense amount of autotune. 4 or 5 Seconds by Kanye West featuring Paul McCartney and Rihanna. It was between this and Budapest for #10. I went with Budapest ultimately because this song's a little bit too fast-paced for its own good. Elastic Heart by Sia for being a pretty great track on its own, but I can't include it out of principle as it's the stepping stone that led to mediocre shit like Alive. Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon, which dominated my life for about 2 weeks and then wore off way too quickly. Riptide by Vance Joy, which has a nice Mumford & Sonsy kind of stream of consciousness feel to it. Renegades by Ex-Ambassadors, which would have been my #8 if I didn't realize a few months ago that there's a Jeep model called the Renegade that this song was used to advertise, which was kind of a deal breaker. King by Years and Years, which would have been #5 on this list if it didn't peak on every single chart except for the Hot 100. Fuck you, America. Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson, which would have topped this list if it didn't already top last year's list. Crash and Burn by Tom... No, I'm kidding. I just wanted to see the look on your faces. Cheyenne by Jason Derulo for being genuinely amazing, but I'm not putting another Jason Derulo song on a list like this, not after what happened last time. Get Low by Dylan Francis and DJ Snake for being incredible for like a week. And Hello by Adele for being incredible for like 2 weeks.
And now, #1.
This one might come as a surprise to some of you, because unfortunately I've never got the chance to mention this in any of my other videos. But it was a pretty big hit considering how long it took to show up on the charts. And by all standards, how good it is, how memorable it is, how much I listened to it, and how much it dominated my life, this is the best hit song of 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, DJ Snake.
What you want, what you want.
From pretty much the first time I heard this, I think back in February, I knew this would be somewhere on here. Very rarely have I used the phrase pop perfection and meant it, but it definitely applies here. I honestly can't think of a single bad thing to say about this. It's got everything. The production is spot on at every possible moment. The melodies are infectious, the production is weirdly memorable, there's a perfect balance of reverb and actual atmosphere, and the build-up to the chorus, as well as the chorus itself, are incredibly satisfying. From the synths, to the hi-hats, to the atmosphere, to the snapping, it's a technical masterpiece, just how well everything flows together. I never could have guessed that somber trap would work so well.
I know for
the vocal looping is weirdly not annoying. Probably the first example of a song I've heard that it actually sounded natural in.
You know you like your body, drives you insane. You know you like your body, drives you insane.
Aluna George's lead singer's accent works incredibly well with the song's general style. It was actually pretty surprising to discover this was a remix. It works so well as its own song that it's pretty hard to tell.
If you wanna train me like an animal.
The lyrics are definitely meaningful. Probably. Maybe. I don't.
Baby, you got nothing to prove.
But what amazes me the most about this song is its longevity. It is unreal how well this song stands up to overplay. I've heard this song at least 150 times in the past year, and it still holds up incredibly well. Anyone who listens to pop should know how necessary and how rare that is. I mean, sure, it's not as good as it once was, but it still has that same general fresh feel to it. There's just something about these melodies that never get old. It's still interesting. It's still incredibly invasive and addicting. I'm still discovering new things about it, new songs that it matches up well with. It's such a useful song, if that makes any sense. And there is no doubt in my mind, when I look back at 2015, 5 years from now, this is going to be the first song that I remember. I'm the double agent, and no, I'm not making that obvious joke. See you in a couple weeks. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm in a bunker.